Joining us this evening is a woman who knows all too well about the food cravings that sabotage our healthy intentions, and she has found the key to managing that through her own experience. Welcome, Stephanie Dodier.
Good evening, ladies.
And you have a 4-step protocol. So what started this journey from being on the corporate ladder to holistic nutrition and now having developed this regime?
Yeah, and I think the key here is my own story. So it started 6 years ago as I was in the corporate world and my career was exploding. And one day I was about to get on stage to do a talk in front of a number of people, which for me wasn't stressful because I was used to it. And I had a panic attack. And at that point, I was 100 pounds heavier. I smoked a pack a day, didn't exercise, ate McDonald's all the time. And the people around me thought I had a heart attack. Shipped me to the hospital, and then got out of there 6 hours later to be told that my heart was in perfect condition and I was having panic attack, which drove me to the doctor and got prescribed medication. And I didn't want to do that. And then that took me to the place of natural health. And that's how I started to think about food in a different way than just putting food in my mouth, but how it can heal me.
Okay, so food cravings seem to me to be, for me personally, seem to be brought on more by my emotions and my mood. Is that right?
Totally right. So I would estimate about 75% of our food craving are actually due to emotional trigger. One of the perfect example I can give you is chocolate craving. Who has chocolate craving?
Everybody I know.
My favorite craving of all. So chocolate craving can be deconstructed into two places, the physical aspect and the emotional aspect. And for women, when I'm in front of an audience and I ask women who has chocolate craving, every single woman raised their hand, every one of them. And it's particularly due to our lack of love. And I'll explain to you why. Physically, our body, when we feel the emotion of love, and let's face it, as women, we're emotional being, much more than men. When we feel love, our body produces neurotransmitter, chemical compound, and one of them has a component called PEA, phenylethylamine. That won't bother you with the long name. And when we don't have this release of this chemical, our brain seek to get that PEA from somewhere else, which is chocolate. Chocolate is loaded with PEA.
But I'm loved. I mean, my husband loves me. My children, I think, love me. My dog loves me. So I don't feel unloved.
Let me ask you the good question. How much is your love towards yourself? And that's the trigger for many women is the self-doubt and the fears and how much their relationship with themselves is, the depthness of that will often trigger the chocolate craving. And then when we eat the chocolate, which I'm sure you ladies are familiar with, we feel good, right? We have a release of dopamine in our brain. And often when we don't feel that way, what we do, we turn to chocolate as a mean of having this rush of dopamine and happiness in our body. So it's both physical and it's emotional. So 75% of those chocolate craving are actually you wanting to feel better about yourself.
That's depressing.
Don't cry, Christine. It's okay.
And I don't even have people who love me.
Oh, yes, you do.
The key here is to actually acknowledge that. So what you just did, right? Recognize what it's representing and what body message is being triggered, and then using that as a way of making yourself better, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's what I teach people. And that those 4 steps that you were mentioning earlier is I teach women to use their craving as a cue to actually make themselves better. Instead of seeing their craving as a thing of a lack of willpower and a lack of motivation and being a bad person, see your craving as a cue.
Okay, so I think it is a lack of willpower because I know some people, like my daughter, who can have 1 square of chocolate and then walk away. Whereas if the bar is in the house, the bar is not in the house for very long. So take us through the 4 steps of the Dodier protocol.
Absolutely. So the very first step is realize that you are in a craving mode. So when you're craving, there could be 2 reasons that you're craving. You can easily be physically hungry, right? You haven't had any food for 7 hours, when in that case, just go and have food. But if you had a recent meal and then you see that bar of chocolate and you're like, I want it, Then I'm asking you to take a 15-minute time off, right? 15 minutes where put the bar of chocolate away, walk away from the chocolate. If you're at work, go in the bathroom at work, sit on the toilet, lock the door, close the door, and call a time off for 10 minutes. Put the timer on your phone and then close your eyes and start breathing.
Take some deep breaths.
Mindfulness, whatever that is for you. If it's deep breathing, if it's meditation, if it's yoga, whatever the thing is for you to disconnect from the emotional situation that triggered the chocolate craving, right?
Okay.
Connect with yourself, start deep breathing, and attempt to understand what is creating you to have that chocolate craving. Is it the email that just came into your mailbox, right?
Right. Okay. So two. There's four.
Okay.
Steps.
The very first step, you walk away from the
Walk
chocolate.
away.
Second step, you segregate yourself. Third step, you then connect and have deep breathing.
Okay.
And then 90% of the time, the craving will go away. So when you leave that space where you're with yourself and you have that moment of connection, no more craving. And that's what happened in the people that I work with. And for myself, the craving is gone because you've connected with yourself.
You lost 100 pounds?
Yes, ma'am.
What about step 4?
That is.
Yes, the step 4 is the connection with the situation and awareness of the situation.
So realizing whether it's the email or whether somebody said something to you or whether...
What is the emotional environment that trigger you to have the chocolate craving? Is it the email and so forth?
So can I ask you this?
Yes.
Do you create new sort of brain routes after a while because you stop? It's sort of like quitting smoking. They sort of tell you the same thing. Walk away and say, I'm going to have it in 15 minutes. Think about it. And then...
Yeah, you're creating new neural pathways. If you want to go down in that psychosomatic science, you're creating new neural pathways. So when that situation comes up, when the email from your boss comes up, you will no longer think of chocolate. You will think of another element and not fear the situation anymore, therefore not creating the craving.
Okay, so now you're very generous with your knowledge. You have a tribe.
Yes.
And listeners, so explain what happens there and how our listeners can connect with your tribe and get their guide.
So the very first thing, what we talked about can be resumed in one page. So if people right now listening want to text me at 514-700-2040,
514-700-2040.
And text me their email address. I will send them the one-page recap of everything we just talked about and some more. You can also go to my website at stephaniedodier.com, and then you can get access to my community, to my tribe. It's a Facebook group for women over 40 where we talk about a new way of looking at our relationship with food, and food craving is the main element we talked about all the time.
You've also written a blog on our website, so if people go to whatshesaidtalk.com, all the links and the number will be there. So if you're busy cooking dinner and you don't have a pen in your hand, you can find the information out there. What do you think? Bread is my other craving. Is that a typical one?
Yeah, it's very typical. So bread is another element of food. The carbohydrate will actually release dopamine in your brain to make you feel good. Now, the other part of food craving that bread comes on is also disturbance of blood sugar dysregulation. So many women, because of the food choices they make on a daily basis, have highs and lows in blood sugar. Mm-hmm. And when you dip in the low, typically the 10 a.m. and the 2 p.m., then you crave sugar or food that will trigger you to raise your blood sugar. So that's another element.
We don't have much time, so this is a quick answer I need. Is this successful for people? Can you totally eliminate your food cravings?
Yes. In a way, you will eliminate 80% of them. 20% of them will become cues, and you will have new tools for you to deal with your craving, and you won't be a victim of it.
How long does it take?
3 months.
3 months.
1 to 3 months of you changing your relationship with food and craving.
That's doable.
In a lifetime?
Hey, that's doable. 3 months.
I don't know. Yeah. Apparently, I'm a dopamine addict. I don't know.
I think this gives a lot of people a lot of hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for sharing this information with our listeners. That's awesome.
Thank you for welcoming me here.
When we come back, the changing job market changes the game, and we have an award-winning branding expert, Ali Mang, to guide us. This is what she said on The Jewel. Stay with us.
just change.